Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 31 of Duke's Download. By the way, just FYI, I'm a little sick today. I have a sore throat, so if I sound a little raspy, that's why. But yeah, this is episode 31. I am so excited and honored that we have one of the most legendary pop divas of all time, Taylor Dayne. As it's connecting.
Hi, can you hear me? Thank you, darling. Okay. Oh, thank you, dear.
And is a huge fan of yours too. It's been we've never
Oh my
met,
God, and
but
your mom? We
go
have a
ahead.
love fest going on. You,
Well, I mean, she loves you so much, as do I.
I love
And
her too.
um, RJ, our mutual friend, was very sweet to help put this together. But so, how are you? Like, are you in Southern California right now?
I am. I'm here. I'm here. Like all
I,
of, I don't know if you are, but I'm here. I'm
I
here in
am.
my
I'm in
LA. I
West
mean, I'm
Hollywood.
representing today, so yeah,
Oh,
we're here.
totally. Are
But
you in?
I'm
Are
New
you in?
York girl. I'm a New York girl through and through.
Of course. Do you? When did you
We knew
leave?
that.
When did you leave New York? When did you come to LA permanently on a full time
I moved
basis?
here. Well, I was doing the bi-coastal, 98, 98, 99. I came here to make my Naked Without You album, and I
Mhm.
started doing more film work.
Mhm.
And that led to conceiving children, have going for one child and conceiving two, having a surrogate, and that long sorted album of Naked Without You that ended up under the bridge, and God knows how I ended up saying, "Why am I rushing back to New York so quickly?"
Yeah. But so are you in Orange County or are you in
No,
are
no,
you in LA?
straight up Laurel Canyon, the
Oh, okay.
Hollywood
I don't
Hills.
know where I got the idea that you were living in Orange County. Anyway. Um but
No.
no, obviously I know you've been pretty busy lately. But were you guys shooting Masked Singer in Los Angeles or it's in LA, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay,
Once
got
they
it.
started getting production, like you know, this COVID thing. Once I think we all were just kind of March
Hmm.
stopping the road. We all just kind of came home from the road and we're like, "Wow, now what?" And
Hmm.
tour date stopped, and then March, April, May. I thought we'd all dust off our, and then we'd all be back on the road in the end of May or something. And then we realized, no, June, canceling July, and then
Hmm.
once some production started going back, which was television, and we started seeing some sort of hope, and then they reached out to me for the Masked Singer in July, and I was like, wow, TV productions are going back. They're like,
Hmm.
yeah, very carefully, and
Hmm.
it was so, I was so relieved to hear that there was safely that they were really starting to consider TV productions in these kind of safe sets, if you will. And it was really beautiful to be able to go to work in this environment, where they COVID checked us daily,
Hmm.
if not every other day, and they kept us in these very separate, environments. Cast and as well as crew were very, very safely set. And it ended up being a beautiful experience. And I filmed July, August, September, actually, mostly August, September. We did rehearsals, and yeah, it was amazing.
No, I mean, I can imagine that, as a performer, I mean, I know this obviously with my mom, like to go from that kind of lifestyle where you're used to being on the road. I mean, I know how much you work and how active you are. I mean, and touring and
Yeah.
I mean, it must have been such a shock in March to go from your lifestyle, your usual lifestyle to like nothing. I mean, what has life been like for you during this whole thing?
It's a part of me that in the very beginning, I was doing a lot of these Sunday concerts at home because I couldn't wrap my head around it, and
Hmm.
I so needed to be with my fans,
Hmm.
um, and that was beautiful. It still is beautiful, but there was also a part of me that needed to skid straight and be home and reset that button. And we all have. And my body was in constant motion, and I needed to also probably take a break.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
don't
I'm
think
in my
people.
50s.
Go ahead. No, go
Yeah.
ahead. I don't think people
My
know. My
body
mom,
also.
it's not touring is not easy. I mean, it's, I don't think people realize. I mean, it's, as you said, once you get a little older, like, my mom's what, 62. I mean, it's, it becomes, it's not easy on your body or on your
Probably
mental.
not.
Yeah.
But I also, like, I just can't even believe how much is, like, happening to me. But I'm also like, I don't like being still. But at the same time, this reset button has allowed my body, it's also in the stillness, you get answers, you must get answers. And I've also found this Groundhog's Day to be very revealing. So there's
It
also
is
been
totally
a lot of
Groundhog Day.
messages. I've enjoyed being home, but I've also relished in the fact that I enjoy being out there.
Hmm.
I
Have you
love
had your
being.
kids with you the whole time, or like, are they at home, or?
Yeah, they were here some of it, 6 months of it. Some of them they weren't. They got a little fed up with it as well. In the beginning part of it, they were graduating high school.
Right. Wow.
I'm also a touring single mom. I also was doing
Hmm.
this as a working mom my entire
Wow.
life. They don't know any differently. Yeah.
Wow. So they
It's
just
been interesting.
graduated high school in May
They
or last
graduated
year?
during, no, last year. Imagine
Wow.
they graduated high school without graduating, essentially. Imagine going through your senior year while their last semester, well, I couldn't even go. It was virtual, right? Their last semester, there was no, yeah. So they got the short end of the stick. And then their first year of college is definitely the short end of the stick. Now my son's like, I don't even want to go to school, in school. I like
Oh,
virtual school. I'm like, well, dude, my house ain't a dorm room, and this ain't no, and downstairs, so don't treat it like one biatch, I go out into like the guest house, and I'm like, what? I'm like, dude, the only way I'm going to get out of this is sell this house. You know what I'm saying?
oh, believe me, I remember when I was.
Only way
I
I'm
mean,
going to get rid of these kids is by selling, right?
when I was in my late teens, I was like right when I started college. I was definitely a handful at that moment. I was ready
Oh, so
to.
I see. So Belinda had to move to Thailand. I see, dude. I see how this rolls. Okay.
Well, I
So
think
Mason and
what.
Belinda
Okay,
moved to
obviously,
Thailand to get rid of Duke. Oh.
I mean, okay, with COVID, obviously, I think we're all like, we're feeling the distance. But in a way, I always like up until now, I thought, oh, it's kind of nice that they live so far away because when we talk all the time. We talk on the phone like 10 times a day, but when we do see each other, there's a little bit of like because I'm an only child, so there's a lot of helicopter parenting going on, and so anyway. But now we're sad. Now we're like, oh my God, we're so far away from each other. So now you really appreciate getting
Oh,
to spend time with your family.
namaste.
I know.
Oh,
I
I
know.
love it.
But no, I mean, I saw you do the virtual concerts, which are fantastic. And when did you put out your latest single? It's called "I've Got My Love," right? Is that it?
Yeah, I mean, look, a Christmas song is ageless and timeless. So I put it out. This is the second time I put it out. I put it out a year ago, and now I put it out this Christmas. And I think now I did another one with the Masked Singer, so I'll probably take a stab at a few more. So yeah, this is the second season of "I've Got My Love to Keep Me
That's
Warm."
fantastic.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it must have been kind of. I mean, I guess starting in July, you didn't have this problem, but at least for those first few months, trying to find opportunities to like be creative and have an outlet. I mean, like my mom, for instance, I don't think other than like one or two little things they did for like taped things, she hasn't performed since January. So, I mean, for you, it must be weird. Like that must have been weird up until you did Masked Singer, not having like a creative outlet, you know?
This is true. I mean, unless you go into the studio and you work with some people here and like performance wise, it's true. You either go online or you find different ways to challenge yourself with friends. I mean, in my case here, there's been some people here in some studios and there's been some rehearsals I've done and people that I've written with in some ways. So it's been there's been some creative outlets here that
You've been
I've.
writing. You've been
Mhm.
working on some new music. Oh,
Mhm.
cool!
Yeah,
Wow,
and that
that's
part's been
amazing.
that part's been really fun and been creative. So there's that aspect of it where with this downtime, there's been some fun time with it, and some been creative process to it, which has been really neat, getting some stuff done. So that's really been good. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now, one thing I thought was interesting, not to keep bringing up my mom, but, I was reading about
Well,
you. I
let's
mean, I
bring
already
up the
knew a
one.
lot about you, but I was reading about like your history, and I didn't realize that you guys have a lot in common. I mean, the fact that you both worked with Rick Knowles and Diane Warren, for instance. I mean, I was like, I mean, those are two people that did a lot of her stuff, and so I mean, you guys have
Well, they're
worked with a lot of the same people.
two
And
wonderful,
I was going to
wonderful
say too that,
songwriters.
in terms of your life story, like I respect you for a lot of the same reasons that I respect her, because I mean, you guys both came from humble beginnings. I mean, you both, really did sort of manifest this, these lives for yourselves. And I mean, I know you wrote a book about your life, but like, would you say there are things that I know, it's 30 years since Tell It to My Heart, right?
Yeah, this is
I mean,
like
are
31
there
years. Yeah, since the
things
release of.
looking back on like the last 30 years, like things that you've sort of reflections or lessons or things that you think you'd impart on other people about how to sort of achieve your manifest your dreams? Or
There's a humility involved in it. There's, manifesting your dreams takes a lot of tenacity, but it also takes a lot of stillness. I think there's one thing in manifesting, and there's also, there's a drive you have as a child. There's something that ignites you when you're young, and there's a fire that you have. It's not necessarily you're born with it, but there's something inside of you that pushes you, right? There's something that doesn't let go. And it could be a fear. It's either driven by a fear or a joy, right? A fear, a lack of something, or something that gives you so much joy that because you have to have it, right? Oftentimes people, most time people, there's a lot of times where people say to you, I'm driven by fear because if I don't have it, I'm never enough, right? Or sometimes because if I don't have it, I have to, jealousies or things like that. So if you, oftentimes when you find that you can take that fear and shift that into a joy, like all is good, you can find like the story shifts into a place of peace. And then you're still driven. That's all the difference is. When you find great people, they're still driven by their greatness, their abilities turn great, but they're shifting into a place of service, into greatness. So greatness starts usually from an animal instinct. When you watch greatness, like Mike Tyson, for instance, it's starting from an animal instinct. It's still coming from this kind of greatness comes from a need so strong. It usually comes from a burning desire to fight, to get out. And mine was driven by fear, by most, to get out of maybe a dark place, a need to be free, a need to be freed from intolerance, a need to be free from.
Oh, I think
Bring you back.
you're back. I think it muted for a second.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm sorry,
Oh,
just something that you need to. For me, it was a childhood. I just needed to eliminate the fear factor around me. That's my story.
and like, were you not? Were you like from the get go? Did you know exactly what you wanted to do? Was it? Were you were you in any way like afraid, or like did you think, were you afraid of failure or of
No,
some of the obstacles?
I was afraid of losing myself. I was afraid of being consumed in a household of violence, of consumption, of other people's worry and death and misery. And you see, there was a little person in there. It was me. I was afraid of the consumption there. And there was only little fragile me, but at the same time, I had this fire. And I knew they respected my voice or my little beingness. I was still loved as a little human being. That part was obvious, but people get hit and beat up and around. You become just you get caught in crossfire, baby. Crossfire is a bitch. And that is what they forget. You're just going to get nicked in crossfire, and that, unfortunately, the beautiful person gets hurt in crossfire. That's just how it works.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to watch yourself. So strong, greatness usually has to learn how to become more sublime and more in the light. And maybe your mom is part of that. It's not like we were born with a manual.
Right.
You have to learn.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to learn how to let love in, let that light in. My mom had a lot of light. My mom ended up moving to an ashram much later in life and left my dad, and they are back together, and it's beautiful. She learned so much about love and light, and they were hippies too in their own little way, and they let a lot of that in. My parents were very, very open and willing to learn about the arts, and we're very, very understanding, but also they were filled with, they were first generation Holocaust surviving kids. Like, I'm sorry, there was a lot of dark around them as well.
Wow.
They were learning a lot as well, so these are things that we don't understand as children because we're born without war. We don't understand darkness as dark as they have seen.
Mm-hmm.
We don't.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it seems like you've never been, I mean, even like you said, your decision to have kids, and do it as a single mom, and to do it being as busy and as sort of career driven as you are, I mean, my mom and dad are obviously still married and raised me together. It was hard enough for them together and hard enough for her touring as much as she did to try to balance. So, I mean, to do it alone, I mean, it's really admirable. And I mean, I can't, I mean, I love that you just went for it.
But my son will say one thing and my daughter, and they're twins. And yet they'll say, well, you didn't raise me. I'm like, oh, go fuck yourself. I didn't raise you. Please. Oh, well, the nanny was here. I'm like, oh, really? Yeah, I was raised by a Honduran. I'm like, oh, yeah. Okay. Well, maybe 5 days a week, Levi. That might be true 4 days a week. But the reality is it's not true. It's not true. He can have his story, and it can be what he wants it to be. But, I mean, at the end of the day, it's a chip off the old block. It really is.
Well, it's funny because, my case, like, I think my mom still feels a little bit of guilt. I mean, she's talked about it, about how, she feels guilt about being away so much. Like, apparently, I don't remember this, but apparently when I was like a year or two old, or maybe a little older, I said to my dad, why does mommy live at the airport? And she was like really, guilty about that. And I say to her all the time, as far as I'm concerned, I didn't feel in any way, like she wasn't present. I mean, I think she did a pretty good job of balancing all the responsibilities and different things in her life. So, a lot of it's, the way that we sort of perceive things, and, but for me, I mean, I thought she did a great job. And I think you're both great examples of people that, have managed to juggle all these different, big commitments that you've both had in your responsibilities in your lives,
You're sweet.
But it's crazy that
We're
your kids
sweet.
are
I
now.
mean, and we're still learning. We're still trying to figure it out.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
Still figuring it out.
Absolutely. I was going to ask you, of course, about Masked Singer because, like, I was just curious, given that it happened during COVID and everything, like, how did it even come about? Like, what has the journey been like with the whole? I mean, by the way, everybody I know is obsessed with you and loved what you did on the show. And by the way, do you know Brian Strickland, who works on the show? He's a good friend of mine.
Yeah.
He writes some of the jokes, and he's such a hysterical guy. But anyway, the show was so great.
Oh my God!
You were so great on it.
I mean, you see me? Everybody on Masked Singer was just all the producers, all the writers, everybody. They were just amazing. Anybody who's watching this knows. They just know. I love them all. Pop loves you. She loves you. Oh yes, I do. Yes, I do. Pop was just all about it. I rock so hard as popcorn. I'm just looking at all your You rock so hard as popcorn. You could have Jiffy popped those kernels. Oh hell yeah, she did. I Jiffy popped those things. Yes, she did. I mean, half the time I couldn't even tell if they were giving me the voiceover, but I mean, every time it was like, I just like Nick. Well, I had a ball. It was really fun. It was a lot of fun. I just didn't know how it was going to go from the start, and then it just kind of took a life on by its own, didn't it? It really just did.
Oh. And how long did it go on for? From July until when? Until what? Until
We kind of nailed it in July, and then it went from we got into her August, September.
wow. And someone wrote, do you pick your songs to sing, or did you pick your songs to sing?
No, we had well, yes and no. We have a list, and then we have a clearance list, and then we
Right.
choose, and then I gave them we went back and forth with things that were comfortable, and then keys, and then I work directly with music directors and stuff. Yeah, but we
Wow.
have it's clearances and there's things. Yeah, we had a list that we could work with, and then I gave my list, and kind of we kind of collaborated on that. Yeah.
Wow. And so now that sort of that journey is, well, I mean, it's I know you were just on there the other day. I mean, so it must be kind of it must now
You
be
mean like
kind of
last night? I know.
yeah, exactly. I mean, so it must be like, are you kind of taking a break? Like, are you kind of now, like, in terms of like, do you have any other like upcoming projects that you're thinking about, or are you kind of taking a beat to?
Oh yeah, we're in talks. Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, I know you said you're working on new music, but
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
wow.
Working on new music. I actually have a private show coming up and New Year's.
Oh, fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
That's great.
Yeah. I'll be working on
it's
New Year's and trying to get
it's
it in
just
the
crazy
mix here.
because yeah, I mean, it's other than like the odd private show or
I'm
virtual
fortunate.
show. It's like
Very fortunate.
when are things going to come back? I mean, that's the question.
I think we're looking at. I have shows that are. I think we're talking about July, August. We're looking at things in July and August. Hopefully,
well, you have tour dates next
we're
year,
all
right?
in the same boat.
You have tour dates next year?
We're looking at July and August. Yeah, 21.
Guys, I saw on your website that you have a few dates that are so. You're hoping
We'll see.
that those
Knock
are.
on wood. But I'm with you. We'll knock on wood. Because things have changed so dramatically, and now some dates we had stuff in Europe in March, and some things postpone, go back. It's just
Mm-hmm.
we follow what's going on as well as everybody else. But yeah.
Wow.
Hey Michael. Hey Gina. Hi Richie. Hey Alabama.
You have your fans that come on these on all of your IG lives, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Well, Taylor, I'm so grateful, beyond grateful.
Thank
it's
you,
such a pleasure to finally talk to you and meet you. And
you're lovely.
Thank you. And I really hope. Well, first of all, I would love to meet you in person. Hopefully next year. I'd love to come to a show. I know you're invited to come to a Go-Go's show, and my mom has both solo and Go-Go shows next summer. So
what are we? Yeah, are those coming into play? Good.
Hopefully. I mean, they rescheduled their entire summer 2020 tour for next year, but who knows for sure if even July, August next year will be.
Of course they will.
We'll see. But hey, we'd love to have you, and I can't wait to meet you in person.
Wait.
So thank you for doing this. Seriously.
Thank you, Duke. You're a charmer. You're beautiful.
Thank you. Have a good night.
All right, darling. You too. Big kiss.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, guys.